Hello, artists. I wanted to talk to you, explain through a couple things. We've been doing our shoes, and you guys have been doing an amazing job. And here's my dirty shoe. We talked about the contour line and the importance of a contour line, and this is not the shoe that you just saw, but see how it's a basic outline of what you see. And I talked to you about touching the shoe and actually feeling if there's a groove or a bump, and following your finger around, okay? So that's the contour line. So we practiced that. And then I made a grid that looks like this. And so what I want to talk to you about is when you're using this grid paper, and we've also been doing videos of the artist that we've been talking about for the week, following along with him, but I made this grid. You want to think about breaking your shoe down and how it would fit on the grid. So if the midpoint of this grid would be in this section in the center here, okay? And you want to think about if I was to cut my shoe in half, where would the middle of my shoe be? So visually, right here would be the middle of my shoe. Now, the high point of my shoe is not necessarily where the midpoint of my shoe is, okay? So if I have, this is the middle point of my shoe, and looking at the camera at the midpoint of my shoe, the highest point of my shoe is to the left of the midpoint. So that's the highest point of my shoe here, not counting my laces, okay? So if I go to my grid, and that's the middle, and I'm to the left of that artist, then I would come here and not have my high point here, okay? And then when you're drawing your shoe, I also want you to think of starting with the toe. Now your shoe should fit on the entire part of this graph, no matter what size. This is a size 11, I have big feet. But no matter what size, it should still fit on here proportionally. So if I look at this right here, and I have, try and hold it straight where you can see it in the camera here, my toe would be right here. And I'm looking at this line that's coming up here. It is curved, okay? So if I'm looking curved here, then I have a little bump. Do you see that bump there, artist? So there's the bump, okay? And this is just the basic sketch that I want to see for today. Then I have a little bump here on that part of my shoe, and I'm gonna have to set the shoe down at some point because it's kind of hard to draw and do the video at the same time. So then you want to look at the lines that's right here, artist. And we talked about the high point, so take your finger and go up to the high point of your shoe, okay? I don't know if I can set, no, I don't have a good camera angle for this. So the high point of my shoe I talked about is the left of this grid. So there's the high point of my shoe, okay? Then think about this line here. Does it go down? Is it straight? Is it curved? And think about the shape that you see or the line right there. So right here, if this is my shoe and I want this to proportionally go up, okay, and I'm trying to look at my shoe and draw at the same time, then I have a little bit of a bump, and then it starts to come up. There's my high point. We talked about wanting it to meet and match. Okay, so there's the outside of my shoe. Then this line here, I'm going to draw this next. Okay, we talked about with the artist, what he was showing is he came right back here and did this next. So now look at the line that you see here. Got a little bit of a ridge and a bump. Okay, we also talked about it curving in the middle where you have your support for your arch. And then I could come back in and add my other bumps. And you can change all this later for it to fit on your graph paper. Okay. And then I come back up to this top here and I look at this curve where it comes down. Make sure you can see the video. And then down here, I also have a loop. See that little loop down? So this is a curve. There's that little, comes back up. And then I have a little bit of the ridge for the outside of the shoe. It's gonna curve. Now I have like a lace on mine, so I'm gonna put that line there. It's gonna come back, curve. Now I have more of a bump. See what I'm talking about there, artists? That bump. So I'm actually going to bring this line back in a little bit, erase it so you can see that curve bump there and it comes back out. Now, that is the basic layout, contour line of this shoe. Now I'm gonna come back and do some more drawing. When you have this sitting on your desk, artist, I want you to be looking at it from this view. And in the camera, the angle is completely different. That's why it's different than what you see. You should actually see this back side of your shoe from your view, okay? And so if I go to my picture that I drew, I can see the inside of that shoe. Now, do you see how I create that contrast by putting that shadow in? Also look at my laces. I'm gonna talk to you about drawing the laces. We talked about the placement. So you count out how many laces you have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I also talked to you about putting dots down. So let me come here, separate this line out here, which it should be a parallel line. It can be curved and still be parallel, okay? So then that's that part of the shoe. Now what I wanna show you is, see how it's got this plastic piece here? Kind of looks like a little plastic piece. Okay, so don't forget that part of the shape of your shoe. I'm just doing the basic part here so you guys can see. Now, in order to get this line here, draw, hopefully you guys can see that in the camera, draw the line lightly, okay? Then you come back in and you see the lines are diagonal, actually, that are coming that direction, and I'm just doing this to show you real quick. Then the shape that I actually see is that, and I would come back in, there's my guideline. Do you see how I'm making it darker, artist? And I'm coming back in and I'm making the contrast and putting the shapes in. Okay, now I'm gonna show you how to do the laces. You start with a dot, okay, once you have the placement, and I'm just doing this part of the shoe. Let me zoom in so you can see better. So here's my dot. You look at your shoe. Is it a circle? Oh, that's really close up. Is it a circle? This is kind of an oblong, okay? So if you have a circle, I'm gonna show you how to do the oblong first. So I would kind of have a curved line there. And if you look at my lace, artist, it is being stretched over that part of the shoe. And when it comes into the hole, it's going to be narrow. So look at how I'm drawing it, artist. I'm having it be narrow, okay? And then when it comes across my shoe, decide what direction that lace is traveling. It's going back in that direction. So I'm drawing these lines. This line here is important. It needs to be curved, and I'm doing it dark so you can see, to give the illusion that it's being wrapped across that shoe. Then I come back in and I erase that, okay? Then you can, I think I can get a little bit closer. You can come back in and create your shape, emphasize it more, darken it, okay? Now, if I had it was a circle, so I would do this first, and then I would come around the outside and create the shape, okay? Now, to create the contrast and make it look more 3D, then you would look really close, and my shoe doesn't look like this, but I'm showing you how to do a circle one, and you would have a shadow, okay? Do you see how that really makes that pop? When you draw your lace, okay? Here's my lace that I drew. Think about, let me zoom back out. Let's pretend like I have this lace. Think about it being, it is a piece of soft material. So take your finger first and move it in a flowing direction. Then you can just take and do your line like that, and that shoelace would come towards me. And then what is it, artist? It's a parallel line. This is the trickier part, where you want it to flow, turn your paper if you need to, flow along and be parallel in a moving direction that is parallel to that other lace, okay? That other side of the lace. Then I would come around and think about the shape. See how I'm making it narrow, artist? Let me get in here. You can see it better. I make that narrow and curved, and then you have the bottom part of your lace, look real close to your shoe, okay? And that creates the illusion that it looks three-dimensional. And then I would come back in, artist, and I would erase the lines underneath it, okay? And then you would create texture to make it look like it's actually thread. I'm going to turn this over and show you another part. If you have a shoe that has a bunch of texture that you're trying to create, okay, then come in, get closer, and do your crisscross lines, okay, and create your pattern that way, okay? I think it's in focus, maybe not. So create your pattern that way. If you have a design, then you would come in after you've started, using your lines first to make that easier to create that illusion, okay? To create the texture. Hopefully these little helpful hints have helped you. Helpful hints, not tints, have helped you today, artists.